we are on day 2 of Autism Awareness. Today is actually Autism Awareness Day. Today is Autism Awareness Day. And we're on day 2. So today we're going to talk about advocacy and change for a better future. How can advocacy help autism? All right, I'm going to talk about some ways you can help create positive change, whether you have a child with autism or not. All of us can do our part, right? It takes a village, all right? So let's get into it. The first thing you can do to help with advocacy is protect the rights of individuals with autism. So maybe maybe you're a parent and you know these things and you don't. Or maybe you're not a parent, but you know someone who has a child with autism and maybe you don't know these things. Or maybe you've heard some of these terms, maybe you watch my videos, because you want to know more. And maybe you've heard me throw around some of these terms like, IEP or whatever. So we're going to talk about some of these, right? So we want to be able to educate parents and caregivers on their child's legal rights and empower them to advocate effectively, right? And some of the ways we do that is to make sure they understand IDEA and IEPs. So, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, guarantees a free, appropriate public education. Okay, so if you watch some of my other videos, I mentioned before that whenever Hassan, my son who has autism, he's 25, when he was diagnosed at age 5, the public school district that we were in did not have an effective and appropriate disability education act in their school district. It didn't guarantee a free, appropriate public education, FAPE. Free, appropriate public education. They didn't have that available. So they had to pay for him to go. That's why they tried to mainstream him, because they didn't want to have to pay for him to go to a private school, right? These are legal rights for the children, right? And they have to be in the least restrictive environment. That's a term that I taught you last week, least restrictive environment, right? In order to emphasize the importance of an individualized education plan or program, which is an IEP, right? And this is for children with autism who need their own individualized education plan because for whatever reason, they have a developmental delay, a learning delay, a speech delay, and they are not able to be inserted into the traditional curriculum, academic education that's in schools, right? They also have Section 504 and ADA protections. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act and Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, protect individuals with autism from discrimination in schools, workplaces, and public places. This is the problem with them taking away DEI, because these programs are going away, right? And the whole purpose of this whole section that I'm talking about is protecting the rights of individuals with autism, but people with disabilities in general, right? This is the problem. Transition planning and post-secondary rights. Understanding that the importance of developing an individualized transition plan, ITP, as part of the IEP to prepare teens for life after high school. Okay? So, you know what I mean? Once children graduate from high school at age 18, they need a transition plan. There needs to be a transition into adulthood. Okay? The education system kind of just drops them off. You know what I mean? There's nothing after that. So they need a transition plan. And then guardianship and supported decision making. Understand the options when their child reaches adulthood, including alternatives to full guardianship. Okay, maybe you heard me talk about guardianship on some of my other videos. I have guardianship over my son Hassan. I'm not going to get into guardianship, but guardianship basically allows me to continue to operate legally as Hassan's mother, to continue to make decisions for him on his behalf, because legally he can't mentally make decisions for himself that make sense. Okay? He doesn't have the capacity to be able to make adult decisions for himself because he has autism. Okay? And there's a whole process to guardianship. But then there are other options if you don't have full guardianship over your child. Okay? The next thing is promoting inclusion in schools, workplaces, and communities. You want to be able to create environments where individuals with autism are valued, respected, and included. And I talked a little bit about this yesterday, right? I want my son to be valued and included in different settings and environments, right? Whenever he goes to work, I don't want him to be treated badly or poorly or like something's wrong with him. You know what I mean? I want him to be valued, right? So, inclusive education matters. Advocate for more meaningful inclusion in general education classrooms with appropriate supports and accommodations. Hassan he didn't participate in any general classroom settings. Okay, all of the classrooms that he was in were special education classrooms. But there are some very high functioning children with autism who are high functioning enough to be in general education classes. Or, unfortunately, there are school districts that don't have special needs classrooms, and they'll incorporate them into the general education classrooms, but they have to have the special needs supports that they need in order to be there. Too many times I've been in these, as you know, I'm in these autism groups on Facebook, and I hear these horror stories from these parents about how their children are in these classrooms, and the teachers, in the teacher's defense, they are not trained to deal with 19 general education students and then one special needs child that needs more attention than the others. They're not trained for it. And just to be clear, a general education class has its own, issues. Okay, kids are kids, right? But then the special needs child has special needs, okay, that the teacher doesn't have the ability to accommodate. So this child needs special supports that they don't have. It's not fair. When Hassan was in special needs classes in grade school, there was like, one support staff adult to every two kids in the class. So if there was a classroom full of 8 kids, there were 4 teachers. Like there were like one main teacher with a co-teacher and then two aides. Well, when you have a general support, classroom, you got one teacher for 20 kids. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. So we have to advocate for this. Workplace inclusion and accommodations. Encourage employers to create supportive environments where individuals with autism can excel by providing reasonable accommodations and fostering understanding. Absolutely. There are employers with programs that have departments for people with special needs, for people with autism, for people who need specialized support, specialized training so that they can do the job, so that they are valued, so they can, exercise their strengths and skills in the workplace. I think that's amazing, okay? And we need more of that, right? Community involvement and peer programs. Promote extracurricular activities, peer mentorship programs, and social opportunities that encourage interaction between neurotypical and neurodiverse individuals. I gave you a little bit of an example of that, how, Hassan's campus does that. He's in a program at Georgia State University that has a department for students with special needs, but they incorporate them into the whole, university, where the other students, the non neurodiverse students, they are able to, help them to encapsulate those students into the entire university. They're not sectioned off those students over there. They have embraced them and they interact with those students, right? Representation in media and society. Stress the importance of accurate, positive representation of individuals with autism in media to challenge stereotypes. If the environment, if social media, if they don't see, if they don't experience the life of people with autism, people fear what they don't know, right? People fear what they don't understand. The more they see it, the more they can experience it, the more they can embrace it. I can't say it better than that. You know what I mean? So we have to push for inclusive policies and advocate for opportunities where individuals with autism can thrive, okay? And the last thing is that we need to ensure access to resources and support. We need to help families navigate available resources to meet their child's educational, medical, and social needs. Early intervention and diagnosis. Stress the importance of early identification and accessing early intervention services to improve long-term outcomes. We need to know how to identify the signs of autism early, okay? I was able to identify some signs of Hassan's diagnosis early on, and whenever I was bringing it up to his doctor, she kept saying, "Oh no, that's not." And I think really, in her defense, I think that she didn't have any much experience with autism, or maybe she had seen one or two cases in her career, and this didn't look like that. I think that's what it was. I'm not so sure she was just being passive or dismissive as much as in her mind, it didn't look the same. You know what I mean? So doctors need to be trained. Parents need to be trained. But we need to understand what it looks like before it's, you know what I mean? Or sooner than later, right? So that we can get some early intervention. Community and state support programs inform parents about Medicaid waivers, respite care, and vocational training programs available through local and state agencies. Medicaid waivers, that's a whole nother topic. Medicaid waivers is not for low-income families. A Medicaid waiver is something, this is a whole nother topic. It's something that you apply for your child that has special needs, that will provide programs and services for people with special needs and disabilities. And it opens up a whole nother section. Because Hassan has access to these services, he has a job coach that follows him around. She calls every week just to see how he's doing. She shows up at his job just to work with him and talk to his supervisor. Like, the Medicaid waivers is like a godsend, okay? It's a whole nother topic. That's something else, okay? So we're not gonna get into that on this video. Transition and independent living resources. Highlight programs that provide life skills training, job coaching, and supported independent living for young adults with autism. I think I told you that one summer, maybe a year after he graduated from high school, he participated in a 6-week program at the Tommy Nobis Center here in Atlanta. And it was free. It was, one of the programs, a job skills, life skills, job coaching type thing. It taught them how to interview, how to do a resume, why they need a resume, how to look someone in the eye and give a handshake, how to dress for an interview. And it gave them the ability to learn at their pace how to do things in the workplace on their level. Does that make sense? It's one thing to learn it. It's another thing to communicate it to them in a way they can understand it. Does that make sense? So these programs are out there for now. We don't know what's happening in this political climate right now, and that's what I'm concerned about. So, as long as we can advocate, but we can advocate for each other, we can support each other, and that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. The importance of family support, community support, you know, friendly support, like supporting each other. If you know a family, if you know parents, if you know children who have autism, now you know how to support them. Families, you know, available resources, you know what to look for, you know what families are going through. If families are, let me tell you this. This is what I learned being in these groups, and this is why I'm getting involved. So many families, so many parents, so many mothers do not know what I'm talking about. The reason why I know is because I've been in this for 20 years, over 20 years, dealing with this, learning all the things. And there are things still I'm still learning about, just because there are new things happening all the time. But because my son is so old, he's old, and I'm learning about new things and new programs all the time, and I'm learning about him and what works for him, I can then pass on this information to new mothers, new parents, new families who are just getting the diagnosis for their children, and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. And there are so many new programs and new therapies that may work or don't, or may not work, or just is a bunch of fluff, to be honest. We want to know what works and how to advocate for these children to get what they need. All right. So thank you for watching. Tune in tomorrow where we talk about the importance of family support and how you can be supportive. Okay. And do me a favor, like this video for me, share this video, and thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.